I should never stood over him. I apologize for that. And
it's called karma.
With that being said,
it's called
I hope he gets better.
What you heard in the background there is it's called karma, which is a little surprising to hear that. But, Cece, let me start. There was a lot that happened last night. What was your biggest takeaway from this game?
My biggest takeaway is sometime in this era of sports, it's really hard to be competitive. Guys, what I think is a different era than I competed in. There's competition, and there's what is called combativeness, and that's what you saw in last night's game. There's all kind of rivalries around the NFL. I mean, that's what the league is based on, the tradition. You know, if you talk about in the last 20 years, what are some of the best rivalries? Pittsburgh and Baltimore. It's very competitive. Very seldom is it combative. Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama. We just went through all the big rivalries in college. You know what they are? It's about competition. But it's not about being combative. When they take the field, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cincinnati Bengals, they do everything that they can from the time the game starts to be as combative as possible. You know, this is not a part of sports. Sports is about being pushed to the edge by the opposition, by the elements, by the game itself. That's what real competition is about. And what we saw last night, it wasn't. It's beyond football. Now, Juju, I think he handled it the right way. After seeing the replay and everything, he did make a fair football play. You know, that is a play that's been banned from football. You cannot block back towards the ball carrier and blindside guys. You definitely can't hit a guy up or around above his shoulders. So both of those things he did, he got flagged for. He should have. He apologized afterwards. He saw the replay and realized this was a horrific hit and was thinking about himself. Now, Antonio Brown, as you can hear in the background, who was knocked out in a game a couple years ago by Vontaze Burfict, he was yelling karma in the background. I believe these are all separate things. And when you've been knocked out in an NFL game by a guy, what you think might be fair or what you think might be the right thing to say or do is different from someone else. Because I've never been knocked out in an NFL game. But I can just bet you if someone had knocked me out with a cheap shot, I would probably spend the rest of my career trying to get back at them. Like, that's the way it's done. If someone took a cheap shot at me, I would try to. But after the game, he could have been a little more sensitive, given that their star linebacker, Ryan Shazier, was in the hospital, who laid motionless on the field. So for me, it's a lot of pettiness, but this is not what competition is about.
All right, so I want to go through each of these hits almost in the reverse order that they happen, and then I have a question for you, Cece. Mm-hmm. The last one, the George Iloka hit on Antonio Brown in the end zone, that's illegal. I don't consider that a dirty play at all.
No.
That is a guy trying to make a play on the football in the end zone. Bang, bang. For years, that was considered a great play.
Where the ball was thrown and where he was trying to hit him, there's only a few spots to be able to hit the guy.
Correct. And I understand Iloka's, you know, it's not like he's been in the league 20 years. So since he's been around, it's been illegal. But for a long time, that was considered a good play in the NFL to try to jar the ball loose.
Yes, and you don't have enough time to react differently.
Right. You're trying to save the football game there. So it should have been flagged. But I didn't think Iloka was part of this combativeness. I thought that was a hard football play that was misjudged just a little bit. Juju, if he hadn't stood over him, I wouldn't have had as much of an issue with that either, because for years that was a good football play.
Yes.
That was considered a great block where guys would stand and cheer. Now Juju stood over him.
He
taunted him.
That picture right there.
That's a bad look.
That's a bad look for the NFL. It's a bad image for that game, and it's a bad situation.
100%. And so the Iloka, I don't blame really at all. Juju, I blame mostly for the after effect. What is, to me, most problematic is the hit that was the scariest. The hit that potentially was the most career and life-changing was a hit Ryan Shazier made that wasn't illegal. That wasn't dirty. It might have been against, like, books, football fundamentals.
Yes.
But, I mean, with the speed of the game that's going to happen, that's the scary part for me, is that you can, and the NFL has done a good job of trying to legislate the Iloka hit and the Juju hit out of the game, and we see fewer of those.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can't legislate what happened to Shazier out of the game.
No.
And so the question I have for you, CC, is this, and this is where you talk about NFL players as being a different type of person. How the hell do they 5 minutes later play the game and 30 minutes later are delivering hits like it's as if it didn't happen. The players' abilities to compartmentalize what just happened to Ryan Shazier. Now, the reports out of, if people don't know this morning, the reports out of Pittsburgh, it's promising. It looks like it might have been a spinal contusion.
Yes.
But it looked like...
Which means a bruised spinal column.
Right. And he was taken directly to the hospital, we should mention, right from the field to the hospital.
He grabbed his back. He couldn't move his legs.
On the field, they diagnosed that. That's the reason why they would go right from the field to the hospital, because the doctors that are viewing the game, and once they came onto the field, they knew that he had some type of numbness in his lower extremities.
It was terrifying. So how do you play? I'm sure, I know you said you never got knocked out, and I know you had a teammate tragically die in practice, but during a game...
I think that the training that you go through all the years of playing football, you see other players get hurt, so it's not really the first time. There's only a few people that have ever been paralyzed playing football, so even though the game was scary, and Ryan Shazier, it was scary, but the overall percentages are very, very low of someone getting paralysis playing football. So I think that our mindset by the coaches, we've been trained to be able to move to the next play. And the only way that you can really service your teammate or another guy playing football is by concentrating. And the game is so intense, you don't have time to be distracted. So I think that the training through the years, I think that football players, they are a rare breed. You see it enough that you're able to adjust to it in real time. And you don't have time to recover because of the dangerousness of each and every play.
How much does a revenge factor then play into it? How much does you see one of your guys get hit, maybe you're a little bit more aggressive, maybe you're a little quicker to make a tackle that may or may not be legal. Does that play into it? Do you get fired up for a teammate like that?
That does happen, Jenna. That is a part of the game, and it also depends on who the player is. If they go after your quarterback, everybody's getting revenge on them. The more you like the player, the cleaner the player is, the more the repercussions. As far as Vontaze Burfict, I mean, what are the Bengals going to do to defend him? I mean, he's the dirtiest player in the NFL. Now, does he deserve to get a cheap shot? No. But, I mean, what's their recourse? Because they're used to seeing this. And that's what Antonio was talking about as far as Vontaze Burfict. Like, he's taken so many cheap shots on players.
Other players.
Juju, this was not a cheap shot. This was a football play that was a violent collision.
And I just think people, and we have the benefit of being the first people to get to talk about stuff in the morning. And so it's a prediction. I don't know that I'll be right. I think people are going to be somewhat in the media disingenuous about what happened last night. People are going to talk about the two things that are preventable, the Juju play and the George Iloka play, as if those are the serious, dangerous issues facing the NFL.
No, it's a good point.
The reality to me is this, and I love pro football. I base my Sundays around it. I base my profession around it. The reality is, tragically, what happened to Ryan Shazier can happen. And you can't legislate that out. And so when people this morning, or this afternoon or this evening, get on their high horse and bang the table about Iloka and Burfict and Juju, that's, to me, missing the forest for the trees. The reality is this is a collision sport that is highly dangerous. And now, unlike when you were playing, the guys at least have all the information about what possibly can happen, concussions and things moving forward. But there's no way to prevent what happened to Ryan Shazier. Not consistently, not every play, and that's scary. That's just part of what we have embraced.
What Ryan Shazier happened to him was a fundamental.
Yeah.
All right? He ducked his head, ducked his spine, compressing the spine when your head is ducked. All right? So that right there is a fundamental thing. The rest of them were good, hard-hitting football plays that we expect guys that are professionals.
And of course, our thoughts and prayers go out to
Yes.
Ryan Shazier and his family as he
100%.
recovers from this. And we should mention that the lesser important story is that the Pittsburgh Steelers did win that game. They are now 10-2, and they are right there with the Patriots in the AFC. All right, coming up, Ben McAdoo is out, but is any of this actually his fault?
I'm so disappointed.
We will break it down. Cece's shocked.
Man,
It's
they
next.
should have kept him.
First things first.